I arranged a blind date for you.
A blind date? Grandma, no! He's a nice young man.
Danielle
So,
did
is
not
this your
believe
first
in
blind
destiny.
date?
She
It
believed
is,
in
and I'm glad I
contracts,
came.
Me
in
too.
clauses,
Tell me about your work.
in clean exits. Love, in her experience, was messy and expensive. So when her grandmother called with that overly dramatic tone, Danielle already knew something was wrong. Wear something elegant, Grandma said. Not your courtroom armor. It's dinner, not a coronation, Danielle replied dryly. It might be. Danielle rolled her eyes, but she went anyway. Because no matter how independent she pretended to be, her grandmother had raised her after her parents passed. And when that woman asked for something, she delivered. It wasn't just upscale. It was exclusive. The kind of place where reservations weren't made. They were approved. Soft amber lighting bathed the marble floors. A crystal chandelier cast fractured reflections across polished tables. Every chair looked like it had never been sat in. Danielle suddenly felt overdressed and underprepared at the same time. Her navy satin dress clung in all the right places, modest but elegant. Her hair was swept back into a low twist. Minimal jewelry. Sharp heels. She looked composed. Inside, she was bracing for disappointment. The hostess led her to a private dining alcove separated by sheer drapes. The table was set for two. No flowers. No cheesy romantic setup. Just precision. Your guest will arrive shortly, the hostess said. Danielle exhaled slowly. This is ridiculous, she muttered under her breath. Her phone buzzed. Grandma. Be open. Is not what you expect. Danielle scoffed. That was exactly what worried her. The shift in the room was subtle. But Danielle felt it. The music didn't stop. The lights didn't change. Yet the air tightened. Conversations lowered a fraction. Heads turned, but discreetly. Danielle's legal instincts sharpened instantly. Power had just entered. 3 men in black suits stepped inside first. Not flashy. Not loud. Disciplined. They scanned the room without appearing obvious. And then, he walked in. Tall. Clean lines. Dark tailored suit that fit like it had been measured down to the millimeter. No tie, just a crisp open collar. A watch that probably cost more than her car. His face was calm. But his eyes? His eyes were calculating. Until they landed on her. And softened. It was subtle. So subtle most people wouldn't catch it. But Danielle noticed. Because she studied people for a living. He dismissed the men with a slight nod. They retreated, positioning themselves discreetly at a distance. Then he approached her table. Each step measured. Controlled. Not arrogant. Assured. He stopped in front of her. Danielle. Her name rolled off his tongue carefully, like he respected its weight. I'm Minute J. No last name. No explanation. Just presence. She stood automatically, a reflex she didn't appreciate in herself. Nice to meet you, she replied, steady voice, steady eyes. They didn't shake hands immediately. Instead, he held her gaze for one suspended second longer than polite. Not invasive. Intent. As if confirming something. Satisfied, he gently pulled out her chair before taking his seat. For the first 5 minutes, Danielle waited for the usual signs. The flexing. The bragging. The thinly veiled ego. None came. Instead, he asked her about her work. And when she explained complex compliance cases involving multinational contracts, he didn't interrupt. He didn't simplify her intelligence. He followed. Closely. You enjoy control, he observed after she finished. She lifted a brow. Most intelligent adults do. No, he said calmly. You enjoy order. It makes you feel safe. The words landed heavier than they should have. She studied him more closely now. His hands were steady. His posture relaxed, but not careless. There was a faint scar near his wrist, partially hidden by his watch. Not decorative. Earned. You're analyzing me, she said. I analyze everything, he replied. There was no apology in his tone. Just fact. The waiter approached, respectful, almost cautious. Wine was poured without discussion. The most expensive bottle on the menu. Danielle noticed. He didn't look at the price. He didn't need to. Something was different about him. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't trying to seduce her. He was evaluating her. But not like a business asset. Like something rare. And strangely, she didn't feel objectified. She felt chosen. Which unsettled her more. Why did you agree to this? She asked suddenly.
He tilted his head slightly.
Your grandmother requested a meeting. That's not what I asked. A faint hint of amusement flickered in his eyes. You intrigue me.
Simple. Direct.
No performance. She felt heat rise in her chest, not embarrassment, but awareness. Halfway through dinner, his phone vibrated once on the table.
He didn't check it.
A second vibration. Still nothing. On the third, one of the men in black approached and leaned down, whispering something in a language she didn't understand.
Minajay's jaw tightened slightly. Handle it, he said calmly. The man nodded and left.
Danielle's pulse shifted. That wasn't corporate behavior.
That was command. Busy night? She asked lightly. It's always busy, he replied.
And yet you're here. Yes. That word carried weight.
He chose this. He chose her table over whatever required armed men outside. And for the first time in years,
Danielle felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Interest. When dinner concluded, he stood as she did.
He didn't touch her. He didn't hover. He simply walked beside her toward the exit. Outside,
3 black vehicles idled. Men stood positioned strategically. This wasn't luxury.
This was security. Reality clicked. She stopped walking. Who are you? She asked quietly. He turned toward her fully now. Under the streetlights, his expression lost its softness. Not cruel. Just honest.
I run several enterprises, he said. Some of them attract attention. That's vague. It has to be.
A beat passed.
I won't insult you with lies, he continued. My world is complicated. But you are not unsafe with me. The conviction in his voice wasn't dramatic.
It was absolute. And somehow, that steadiness felt more powerful than any charm.
Her grandmother's text echoed in her mind.
He's not what you expect. No. He wasn't.
As he opened the car door for her, he paused. If tonight made you uncomfortable, he said quietly, I won't pursue this further. No pressure.
No entitlement. Choice. She met his eyes again. And instead of fear, she felt curiosity. Dinner wasn't uncomfortable, she replied.
A subtle exhale left him, one she almost missed. Good night, Danielle.
He closed the door gently. As his convoy pulled away,
she stood on the curb longer than necessary.
Heart steady. Mind racing.
Because for the first time since her failed engagement, she didn't feel pursued. She felt seen. And she had no idea that this stranger her dramatic grandmother arranged was already calculating how to protect her from enemies she didn't even know existed.
Danielle did not sleep well that night.
Not because she was afraid,
The data integration.
because she was
But I
curious.
trust the team.
And curiosity was far more dangerous.
She replayed every detail.
The way the restaurant shifted when he entered.
The disciplined men in black.
The coded whispers. The calm authority in his voice.
Minajay was not simply wealthy. He was obeyed. And that difference mattered. The next morning, Danielle did what she did best. She investigated.
She opened her laptop at her kitchen island, coffee untouched, fingers moving with practiced precision.
Search results flooded in. Public profile.
Executive chairman of a multinational logistics conglomerate. Rapid expansion across Asia, Europe, and North America. Impeccable business reputation.
No public scandals. No lawsuits.
No controversies.
Which was suspicious. Men with real power always had controversy.
She dug deeper. Private equity connections.
Shell subsidiaries.
Silent acquisitions of struggling companies that suddenly became wildly profitable.
And then, rumors.
Anonymous business forums whispering about the quiet Korean CEO who controls more than ports and freight. Unverified reports linking his organization to underground enforcement. No proof.
Just patterns.
Danielle leaned back slowly.
He's not just a businessman, she murmured. He was infrastructure. And infrastructure controlled everything. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She hesitated only a second before answering.
Yes.
Good morning, Danielle.
Her spine straightened.
His voice. Calm. Controlled. As if he knew she would pick up. You gave me your number, she asked. No. A pause.
You left the restaurant with it.
Her lips parted slightly. She hadn't. Had she?
A faint smile tugged at her mouth despite herself. That's concerning. I can erase it. The offer was immediate.
No ego. No power play. Choice. She exhaled slowly.
You don't have to erase it.
Silence stretched, not awkward. Measured. Coffee, he said. Not asked. Public place, she replied instantly. Of course. This cafe was not exclusive.
It was quiet, tasteful, discreet.
No convoys this time. Just one black car parked across the street. Progress. When he entered, he wore a charcoal coat over a simple black shirt. No tie. No visible security. But she knew better. Men like him were never alone. He sat across from her. You researched me, he said calmly. Not accusatory. Observant. You're not subtle, she replied.
You don't scare easily. That's not an answer.
A faint flicker in his eyes.
I prefer informed women.
Her pulse betrayed her. So inform me, she challenged. He studied her carefully before speaking.
I inherited a fractured organization at 26. Organization.
He didn't correct himself. Competing interests. Internal wars. External threats. That wasn't corporate language. That was territorial.
I unified it.
How?
Strategy.
She held his gaze.
And force.
A pause.
When necessary.
There it was. Not glamorized. Not denied. Just truth.
The air between them shifted.
You're involved in something dangerous, she said quietly.
Yes. Why tell me? Because if we continue seeing each other, you deserve clarity. The simplicity of that answer unsettled her more than any intimidation would have.
She noticed it again.
The faint line along his wrist, disappearing under his watch. May I? She asked before she could overthink it. He looked down, then back at her.
Slowly, he removed the watch. The scar was deeper than she'd thought. Not accidental. Knife? She asked softly. He nodded once.
When? Years ago. Over business. Over betrayal.
The word lingered. He put the watch back on. I learned something that night, he added.
What? Trust is expensive.
Their eyes locked. And yet you're sitting here, she said.
Yes. Because despite everything, he was choosing vulnerability with her. And that realization made her chest tighten. Halfway through their conversation, a black SUV screeched to a stop outside.
Danielle stiffened instinctively. Minute J didn't move. He didn't even look toward the window.
A man entered quickly, approached him, and leaned down.
Whispered urgently. Danielle couldn't hear the words. But she saw the reaction. A subtle tightening in his jaw.
A brief stillness in his eyes.
Then, decision. He stood.
Stay here.
That wasn't a command. It was protection.
Before she could protest, two other men positioned themselves near the entrance.
Something was happening.
Outside, raised voices. Then silence.
Controlled silence. Minute J returned within minutes. Unruffled. Was that for you? She asked.
Yes. Should I be worried?
No.
You say that very easily. Because it's true.
He sat back down like nothing had occurred. But Danielle wasn't naive. Danger followed him. Not because he chased it. Because he commanded it. Why me? She asked again. Not flirtatious. Not insecure. Genuine. He leaned forward slightly.
The noise of the cafe faded around them. Do you know what most people see when they look at me?
She didn't answer. They see leverage. Access. Opportunity. Fear. And what do I see? He held her gaze with quiet intensity.
You see a man.
Her throat tightened unexpectedly.
You didn't ask what I own, he continued. You asked who I am.
A beat.
And that is rare.
Something fragile passed between them. Not lust.
Recognition. When the meeting ended, he walked her outside. This time, she noticed the positioning more clearly. One car in front. One behind. Eyes scanning rooftops.
Your life isn't normal, she said softly. No.
And if I walk into it?
He didn't hesitate.
You will be protected. That's not what I asked.
His expression shifted slightly. Less CEO. More man.
If you walk into my life, he said quietly, I will make sure you are never collateral.
That word chilled her. Collateral. He lived in a world where that was common language.
And if I choose not to?
His answer was immediate.
Then I will respect it.
No manipulation. No threat. Just choice again.
She searched his face for arrogance.
Found none. For the first time in years.
Danielle felt something she hadn't expected.
Not fear.
Not infatuation.
But the sense that she was standing at the edge of something powerful. And stepping away might be safer. But stepping forward would change everything. As his car door closed and the convoy pulled away, she exhaled slowly.
Her grandmother had set her up with a stranger.
But this wasn't a simple blind date. This was a crossroad. And the most dangerous part? She wasn't running. Danielle told herself she wouldn't go. She even typed the message. This is moving too fast. I think it's better we. She deleted it. Because the truth was simpler. She wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid of how calm she felt around him. And that was far more dangerous. His message had been brief. Dinner is public. My office is private.
If you want honesty, come see how I work.
No pressure. No persuasion. Just invitation. Which meant the choice was hers. Again.
By 7:45 p.m., she was standing in front of a skyscraper of dark glass and steel, the headquarters of his logistics empire. The building wasn't flashy.
It was precise. Minimal branding. Heavy security. Quiet authority. Her name was already cleared at the front desk. Of course it was.
A private elevator opened without her pressing a button.
Top floor access only. Her pulse climbed steadily as the doors slid shut. She wasn't walking into romance. She was walking into power.
The elevator opened into silence.
Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. The lights below shimmered like scattered gold.
The office was expansive, but not cluttered.
Steel. Glass. Dark wood. Intentional design. No family photos.
No personal distractions.
Just control.
He stood near the window, jacket removed, sleeves slightly rolled. The city lights framed him like a silhouette carved from shadow.
You came, he said without turning.
She stepped forward, heels quiet against the polished floor. I don't like unanswered questions.
Now he turned. And for a brief second, he simply looked at her. Not scanning. Not evaluating. Just taking her in.
You wore navy again,
he observed. Her lips curved slightly.
You notice details. I have to.
A subtle pause.
But I notice you because I want to.
The air shifted. Seeing the machine, he walked toward his desk and tapped a screen. Multiple monitors came alive. Shipping routes. Global port maps. Live logistics tracking. Financial dashboards. This is the legal side, he said.
And the illegal side,
she asked evenly. He held her gaze.
Integrated.
She folded her arms.
You're telling me your legitimate business protects the darker operations. I'm telling you everything runs through structure.
He moved closer, not threatening. Measured. Chaos loses money.
Discipline wins.
And fear. He didn't blink.
Fear maintains order.
His honesty unsettled her more than lies would have. You're not ashamed, she said quietly. No. Why?
Because I inherited war.
That made her pause.
At 26, I either became stronger than the men trying to dismantle the organization, or I died.
The statement wasn't dramatic. It was factual. She believed him. He stepped around the desk slowly. Closed the distance between them. Not cornering, but closer than before. Look at me, Danielle. She did. Fully. What do you see? He asked. She studied him carefully. Not just the suit. Not just the authority. She saw the faint tension in his shoulders. The subtle scar near his wrist. The exhaustion hidden beneath discipline. You're tired, she said softly. For the first time. He looked surprised.
Tired of being untouchable.
Silence.
The city lights flickered behind them. Everyone either fears me, he said quietly, or wants something from me. And what do you think I want?
His voice lowered.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
Her heartbeat betrayed her now. Slow. Heavy. Intent.
A sudden vibration interrupted the moment.
One of the monitors flashed red. Minute J turned instantly. All softness gone.
He tapped into a live feed, a warehouse camera.
Several men arguing.
Weapons visible.
Danielle's breath hitched.
He spoke into a discreet earpiece in calm, controlled language she didn't understand.
His tone wasn't raised, but it was absolute.
Within minutes, the situation stabilized.
The red alert disappeared. He removed the earpiece.
Internal dispute, he explained.
With guns, she said quietly.
Yes. And you handled it like a boardroom disagreement. That's the point.
She stared at him.
You live in constant tension. I live in responsibility.
The difference mattered to him. She could see it. He turned back to face her fully.
When I asked your grandmother for permission to meet you.
Danielle's eyes widened. You did what? He didn't look embarrassed.
I don't approach what I value carelessly.
Her throat tightened unexpectedly.
You barely know me. I know enough.
And what is that?
You're not impressed by money.
True.
You don't flinch at authority.
True.
You look at me like I'm human.
Her breath slowed. That shouldn't be rare, she whispered.
It is. The vulnerability in that admission was quiet, but profound.
This wasn't a man performing dominance.
This was a man who had built walls so high no one ever climbed them.
And somehow, she was already standing inside. He stepped closer again. Close enough that she could feel his warmth.
Close enough that the tension became something else.
Not danger. Not fear. Attraction. Slow. Heavy. Magnetic.
His hand lifted slightly, hesitating near her waist.
May I? He asked. 2 simple words. Respect. Choice. Her breath caught. She nodded once.
His hand rested gently at her waist.
Not gripping. Not claiming. Just holding.
The contact sent a quiet electricity through her. He leaned slightly closer, not enough to kiss her. Just enough that she felt the weight of what could happen. You are the only unpredictable variable in my life right now, he murmured. And that bothers you?
No. A beat. It steadies me. Her pulse raced. She had expected intensity.
Possession.
Fire. Instead, he offered restraint. Control. Care. And that was infinitely more dangerous. She stepped back slightly. Not rejecting. Regaining balance.
If I step into your world, she said carefully, I won't be decoration. You won't. I won't be shielded from truth. You won't. And I won't lose myself. Something in his expression softened deeply. You couldn't if you tried.
Silence lingered between them. Heavy. Meaningful.
The city lights shimmered below as if witnessing something inevitable. You should go, he said suddenly.
Her brow lifted. Why?
Because if you stay longer.
His voice dropped lower.
I may forget that I promised myself patience.
Her breath caught. This wasn't flirtation. This was control barely restrained. And somehow,
that made her feel safer.
Not threatened. Valued. He walked her back to the private elevator.
When the doors opened, she turned toward him. You're not what I expected, she said softly.
I know.
That's not a compliment.
A faint smirk touched his lips.
I'll earn one. The elevator doors closed between them.
As she descended, her reflection in the mirrored walls looked different. Less guarded. More aware. Because she now understood something critical. Minute J wasn't just a Mafia CEO. He was a strategist. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't strategizing how to control someone. He was trying to protect something fragile. Her. And the most dangerous part. She wasn't sure she wanted protection. She wanted him.
Danielle should have felt safer after seeing his world.
Instead, she felt watched. Not by him, but by something connected to him. It started subtly.
A black sedan parked across from her office 2 mornings in a row. A man pretending to scroll on his phone but never typing. An unfamiliar number calling once, then hanging up. Her instincts, sharpened by years in corporate law, told her this wasn't random. She didn't tell Minute J immediately. She didn't want to prove him right. She didn't want to be the vulnerable variable. But by the 4th day, the pattern was undeniable. Her phone buzzed at 6:42 p.m. as she exited her building. Unknown number. You're braver than you look. Her stomach dropped. Another message. He can't protect you from everything. The world suddenly felt smaller. Colder. She scanned the street casually. Too casually. That black sedan was there again. Engine running. Windows tinted. Her pulse climbed, but she forced her breathing steady. Fear attracts predators. Calm confuses them. Before she could decide whether to call Minute J, the sedan's doors opened. 2 men stepped out. Not rushing.
Not hiding.
Intent.
Danielle took one step back.
And a van screeched around the corner, blocking the street ahead. This wasn't intimidation.
This was extraction. Before panic could fully take hold, another convoy thundered into the street.
Black SUVs.
Precision driving. Tactical positioning.
Doors flew open. Men in dark suits moved like a synchronized unit.
Not chaotic. Not emotional. Efficient.
Within seconds, the two approaching men were pinned to the pavement.
The van was boxed in.
Weapons confiscated. Shouted commands in rapid Korean cut through the air.
Danielle stood frozen. And then, a final car rolled to a stop. The rear door opened. Minute J stepped out. Not hurried. Not frantic. Controlled. But his eyes. His eyes were lethal.
He walked straight toward her, ignoring the restrained men, ignoring the chaos. Only her.
He stopped inches away.
Are you hurt?
His voice was low, but not steady. There was something beneath it. Rage. She shook her head.
I'm fine. He lifted a hand, hesitated for half a second, then cupped her cheek gently. His thumb brushed beneath her eye as if checking for tears that weren't there. They contacted you before this, he said quietly.
Not a question. She swallowed.
Yes.
His jaw tightened. Not at her. At himself.
He turned slightly, speaking to one of his men in sharp, clipped instructions.
The tone had changed. Colder. Strategic.
Not emotional, but deeply personal. What is this? Danielle demanded softly once they were alone enough to speak. A test, he replied. By who? Someone who believes I value you.
Her chest tightened. Do you? His gaze snapped back to hers. Yes.
No hesitation. No performance.
Just truth.
The restrained men were dragged toward one of the SUVs.
No public spectacle. No visible violence.
Just removal. Will they? They won't touch you again, he said firmly. That answer held layers she chose not to unpack. I'm taking you somewhere secure, he said. I'm not hiding.
His eyes softened slightly.
I'm not hiding you.
A pause.
I'm protecting what's mine. The possessiveness in the statement should have bothered her.
But it didn't feel like ownership. It felt like responsibility.
She hesitated only a second before nodding. The estate was secluded, surrounded by tall gates and quiet trees.
Not flashy. Not excessive. Just fortified.
Inside, the atmosphere shifted.
Warmer lighting. Minimal staff. Soft silence. This wasn't his empire.
This was his retreat. You'll stay here tonight, he said.
And you?
I'll be here.
He led her upstairs to a spacious guest suite.
No cameras visible.
No obvious surveillance. Just safety.
When she turned to face him, the composure he wore like armor had cracked slightly. You should have told me about the messages, he said quietly. I didn't want to be handled. You're not being handled. You deployed an army. Because someone tried to touch what I care about.
Silence. Heavy.
Real. Is this my life now? She asked softly. Convoys? Threats? Extraction drills?
He stepped closer. Not imposing. Grounded.
If you choose me, he said carefully, there will always be risk.
Honesty again.
But I will absorb as much of it as humanly possible.
She searched his face.
You looked angry.
His voice lowered.
I was.
At them? A pause.
At myself.
That caught her off guard.
I should have anticipated this move sooner.
You can't predict everything.
I can try.
And that was the difference. He didn't want control for ego. He wanted control to shield. Later that night, Danielle couldn't sleep.
The adrenaline still lingered in her bloodstream.
She opened the bedroom door slightly. Down the hallway. He stood near the staircase. Jacket off.
Hands clasped behind his back. Eyes scanning security feeds on a tablet.
Alert. Awake. Guarding. He sensed her presence immediately.
You should rest, he said without turning.
So should you.
I will. You won't.
A faint pause.
You don't have to stand there all night. Yes, I do. The simplicity of it made her chest ache.
She walked toward him slowly.
Minute J.
He looked at her fully now. Not the CEO. Not the strategist. Just a man holding back fury for her sake. You can't fight every shadow, she said.
I don't need to fight them all, he replied softly. Just the ones that move toward you. Her breath faltered.
That wasn't dominance. That was devotion. She stepped closer than she ever had before.
Close enough that his breath brushed her temple. You were afraid, she whispered.
His jaw tightened slightly.
Yes.
For me?
Yes. That confession changed everything. This wasn't a powerful man displaying control. This was a powerful man who nearly lost something he wasn't prepared to lose.
She reached for his hand. Interlaced their fingers.
You don't get to carry this alone, she said gently. Something in his expression shifted, deeper, softer, almost vulnerable. You're not a weakness, he murmured. I know. Your motivation. And in that quiet hallway, under soft lighting and guarded walls, their connection stopped being curiosity, stopped being intrigue.
It became something else. Something rooted.
Because she had just seen the most dangerous man in the room.
Afraid.
And not for himself.
For her. The estate was too quiet the next morning. Not peaceful. Measured. Security rotated in disciplined silence outside. Staff moved discreetly. The world beyond the gates felt distant, like a storm pressing against reinforced glass. Danielle stood near the balcony doors of the guest suite, watching sunlight filter through tall trees. She hadn't left.
That realization settled heavier than fear ever could. Behind her, the door opened softly.
She didn't turn. You didn't sleep, she said. I did.
You're a bad liar.
A faint pause.
I rested.
She turned slowly.
He looked composed, as always, crisp white shirt, sleeves buttoned, expression calm.
But his eyes gave him away. He had replayed last night 100 times. So had she.
I need clarity, Danielle said. You have it.
No.
I need boundaries.
That made him still.
I won't be hidden, she continued.
I won't be moved around like cargo.
And I won't become leverage in someone else's war.
His jaw tightened at that last word.
You won't. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. Minute J. His name on her lips softened the tension, but didn't erase it. You can promise effort, she said carefully. Not control. Silence stretched between them.
Heavy. Then, you're right. That admission cost him something. She could see it.
I can't control every rival, he continued quietly. But I can control how I respond. And how do you respond?
His gaze sharpened slightly.
With precision.
She stepped closer. Not intimidated. Not retreating.
Why am I worth that kind of response? The question wasn't insecurity.
It was truth-seeking. He studied her for a long moment before answering.
When I was building control, he began, voice steady but lower, I removed variables.
She waited.
Emotion, attachment, distraction.
And now?
You walked into my life without trying to benefit from it.
A beat.
You didn't ask what I could give you.
She held his gaze.
You asked what I would cost you.
Her breath slowed. Because that was true.
I don't need a powerful man, she said softly. I know. I need a stable one.
Another silence. Then he stepped closer. Not towering. Not claiming.
Just near enough that she felt the gravity of him.
I am stable, he said quietly.
My world is not.
That distinction mattered.
She searched his face. You're not afraid of enemies, she observed.
No.
You're afraid of losing control. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes flickered. I am afraid, he corrected gently, of miscalculating.
For me?
Yes.
There it was again. Not ego. Responsibility.
The most dangerous man in the room feared one thing. Failing to protect her. You don't have to carry me like fragile glass, she said. I don't. Then why does it feel like you do?
Because he looked at her like something sacred. And sacred things are guarded. He exhaled slowly.
You are the only part of my life that isn't strategic.
Her heart stumbled.
That makes you uncontrollable. And that bothers you.
He stepped closer again.
This time, close enough that the air between them thinned. It steadies me, he admitted.
She could feel the shift now. This wasn't about danger anymore. This was about choice.
If I stay, she said carefully, it won't be because you can protect me.
His eyes darkened slightly.
It will be because I want you.
That landed. Hard. Slow.
Intent.
He didn't reach for her immediately. He waited. Because that was his pattern.
Restraint. Danielle, he said quietly, I have built influence across continents.
A step closer.
I have negotiated with men who would rather see me buried.
Another step.
But nothing unsettles me more than the thought of you walking away.
Her breath caught.
That wasn't manipulation.
It was exposure. And exposure was rare for him.
You don't intimidate me, she whispered. I don't want to. You don't control me. I wouldn't.
You don't own me. His gaze softened deeply.
I cherish you.
The word changed everything. Not possess. Not claim. Cherish.
Her defenses cracked. His hand lifted slowly, giving her time to step back if she chose.
She didn't. His fingers brushed lightly against her waist. Warm. Steady. Grounding. He stepped closer, their bodies inches apart now.
Her pulse thundered, but not from fear.
From anticipation. Tell me to stop, he murmured. She didn't. His forehead rested gently against hers. Breath mingling. Slow. Measured. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't consuming. He was asking without words.
She slid her hands lightly against his chest, feeling the strength beneath discipline. You don't need to shield me from your world, she whispered. I want to. I don't need perfection.
I know. I need partnership.
Something shifted in his expression, something deeper than attraction.
Respect. He tilted her chin slightly upward. And this time, he kissed her. Not aggressively. Not hungrily. Slow.
Intentional. Like sealing a promise rather than igniting fire.
The kiss wasn't about heat. It was about certainty.
When he pulled back, his restraint returned instantly, as if he feared overwhelming her. You are not a weakness, he said softly. I never was. You are the reason I want something different.
Her heartbeat echoed in her ears.
Different how? He looked toward the window briefly, toward the world he controlled.
Then back at her. Legitimate expansion. Cleaner divisions.
Less volatility. For me? For us.
That word lingered. Us.
She stepped back slightly, not distancing emotionally, just thinking.
This isn't a fairy tale, she said. No.
There will be consequences. Yes. There will be enemies. Yes. But there will also be you.
He didn't hesitate. Yes. Her breath steadied. Then she nodded.
Then I'm not running. Something in his posture shifted, subtle, but profound.
Relief.
The kind he probably hadn't felt in years.
He didn't smile widely. He didn't celebrate. He simply reached for her hand and held it firmly.
Not as a declaration.
As a vow.
Outside, his empire still moved.
Still calculated. Still operated in shadows. But inside that quiet estate, the most powerful man in the room had just made his most dangerous decision. Not expansion. Not retaliation. Love. And this time, he wasn't building strategy. He was building a future.
Danielle didn't tell her grandmother everything. She told her enough. Grandma, she said over tea that Sunday afternoon. What exactly did you do?
Her grandmother didn't even look guilty. She looked satisfied. The small living room smelled like hibiscus and old books. Sunlight filtered through lace curtains. The space was warm, lived in, familiar. Unlike Minute J's world of steel and glass. I introduced you to a good man, Grandma replied calmly.
You introduced me to a man with armed security.
Grandma waved a dismissive hand.
Security means he expects trouble.
That's not the same as causing it. Danielle stared at her. You knew who he was.
Yes.
How? Grandma sipped her tea slowly before answering.
He came to see me.
Danielle blinked.
He what? It was 3 weeks before your blind date, Grandma continued casually. He requested an appointment. Requested? Yes.
Politely.
Danielle tried to picture it. Minute J sitting in this modest living room.
It didn't compute. He brought no convoy, Grandma added.
Just one driver. He told you who he was. He told me enough.
Grandma set her teacup down gently. He said he was interested in meeting you.
but he would not approach without family acknowledgement. Danielle's chest tightened unexpectedly. He asked permission. Yes.
Silence filled the room. He said, "If she declines, I will not insist.
If she is uncomfortable, I will not persist."
Grandma leaned forward slightly. "Do you know how rare that is?" Danielle swallowed.
In his world.
Probably unheard of.
You tested him, Danielle accused softly.
Of course I did. How?
I asked him why he wanted you.
Danielle's heart thudded.
What did he say?
Grandma smiled faintly.
He said, she looks at me like I am not untouchable.
That echoed painfully familiar. And then? Danielle pressed.
I asked him what he would do if loving you complicated his life.
Grandma's eyes sharpened slightly.
He said, then I will simplify my life. Danielle's breath left her in a slow exhale.
He had already been thinking about change, before she even agreed to dinner.
The fear Danielle wouldn't admit. I don't want to become someone who needs protection, Danielle said quietly.
Grandma studied her carefully now.
Child, needing protection is not weakness.
It feels like it.
That's because you confuse independence with isolation.
The words landed.
You've been alone too long, Grandma continued gently. You built strength by refusing help.
That's admirable. But it is not the only way to live. Danielle looked down at her hands.
I don't want to disappear into his world.
Grandma's expression softened.
Then don't.
Simple. Powerful.
If he cherishes you the way I believe he does, Grandma added, he will adjust his world to fit you, not shrink you to fit it.
Danielle leaned back slowly. He stood outside my door all night, she admitted. Grandma's brow lifted slightly.
After the attack.
Grandma did not panic. Did not overreact. She nodded once. That's not obsession, she said calmly.
That's vigilance. He looked afraid. For himself.
No. Grandma smiled knowingly. Good. Danielle frowned. Good. Yes.
A man who fears losing you will think before risking you.
That perspective shifted something inside her. She had been analyzing him like a case study. Power. Risk. Exposure. But she hadn't fully considered this. He was adjusting. For her.
Are you happy?
Grandma asked suddenly.
Danielle didn't answer immediately.
She thought about the way he asked permission before touching her.
The way he listened when she challenged him. The way his composure cracked only when she was threatened.
I feel chosen, she admitted softly. Grandma's eyes warmed.
That's different from possession. Yes.
It is. Silence lingered.
Then Grandma leaned forward, voice lowering slightly.
He asked me something else. Danielle looked up quickly.
What? He asked what makes you feel safe.
Her throat tightened.
And what did you tell him? I told him you don't feel safe because someone guards you.
A pause.
You feel safe because someone respects you.
Danielle's breath slowed. That was it.
That was the difference. Minute J didn't control her.
He deferred to her, even when he didn't have to. As Danielle stood to leave, Grandma caught her hand gently. Power doesn't scare you, she said softly. No.
Then don't let love scare you either. Outside, the afternoon air felt lighter.
Clearer.
Danielle stood at the edge of the walkway, thinking.
She had spent years protecting herself from disappointment.
From betrayal.
From imbalance. But this wasn't imbalance. This was alignment. He didn't want her beneath him. He didn't want her behind him. He wanted her beside him. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid of that.
As she pulled out her phone, she hesitated only briefly before typing.
Dinner tonight. No security convoy. Just you. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then.
Understood.
A pause. Thank you for choosing me. Her heart softened. Because that was the truth. It wasn't about being arranged. It wasn't about fate. It wasn't about power. It was about choice. And she had just made hers. The betrayal didn't come from the outside.
Yes! Oh,
it
yes!
Came from
I
within.
love you.
It always
I
did.
love you too.
3 weeks after Danielle
Will
chose
you marry
him,
me?
truly
Yes!
chose
Oh,
him,
yes!
Minute
I
J's
love you.
organization
I
trembled.
love you too.
Not publicly. Not loudly. But internally. A senior executive. Trusted. Strategic.
Ambitious.
He had been diverting funds.
Quietly building alliances. Whispering doubts to faction leaders who still preferred the old ways, violence over vision.
And worse?
He believed Minute J was getting soft. All because of her. Danielle noticed the shift before Minute J said anything.
He was quieter. More distant.
Not emotionally, strategically.
He was recalculating.
One evening, she found him in his office at the estate, staring at financial projections illuminated across a glass screen.
"You're not sleeping again," she said gently. He didn't deny it. "There's resistance," he replied.
To what? To evolution.
She stepped closer. "This is about me." He turned to her slowly.
No, he corrected. This is about men who mistake brutality for strength. And what do you call strength?
His answer came without hesitation.
Restraint. The meeting was held in a private boardroom, top floor of headquarters. Long table.
Minimal decor. Heavy silence. Danielle was not present. But she knew it was happening.
Minute J sat at the head of the table, composed, unreadable. Across from him sat Director Han, older, calculating, visibly confident. "You're restructuring too quickly," Han said smoothly. "We built power through fear. You're replacing it with paperwork." "I'm replacing volatility with sustainability," Minute J replied calmly.
Han leaned back.
This shift started when she did.
Silence. The room tensed. Minute J's expression did not change.
"Careful," he said softly.
But the softness was warning.
"You're distracted," Han continued.
"Enemies sense it."
"Loyalty weakens."
Minute J stood. Slowly. Measured.
"You mistake devotion for distraction." His voice remained controlled, but every man at that table felt the shift. "I am not weakening this organization," he continued.
"I am fortifying it. Clean divisions. Legitimate expansion.
Political insulation. And if we refuse?"
Han challenged.
Minute J's gaze hardened, not with anger.
With certainty.
"Then you misunderstand who leads."
Within hours, accounts tied to Han were frozen. Allies were isolated.
Communications intercepted.
No bloodshed. No spectacle. Just strategic dismantling.
By nightfall, the rebellion was over. When Minute J returned to the estate, Danielle was waiting.
She didn't ask what happened. She read it in his posture. "It's done," he said quietly.
"You chose strategy." "Yes."
"For me?" He stepped closer.
"For the future."
She studied him carefully.
"You could have ended it violently." "Yes." "But you didn't."
"No. Why?"
He lifted a hand, brushing his thumb lightly along her jaw. "Because I want a life where you never question who I am when you close your eyes."
Her breath caught. That wasn't image management. That was identity. He was redefining himself. Not because she demanded it.
Because he wanted to stand beside her without shadows following too closely. Over the following months, shifts became visible.
Illicit divisions were quietly dissolved. Assets redirected.
Partnerships restructured into legitimate global trade. The world saw a visionary CEO expanding his logistics empire.
Few understood the deeper shift. He was building something stable enough for her to live in without flinching. And he did it without apology. Without weakness. Without surrendering control. He simply evolved. It wasn't grand. It wasn't public. It was private. At the estate. Under soft evening lights.
The city glowing faintly in the distance. Danielle stood near the terrace railing when she felt his presence behind her. "You changed everything," she said quietly.
"No." He stepped beside her.
"I clarified everything." She turned to him. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to." Silence settled between them, comfortable, steady.
Then he reached into his jacket. Not hurried. Not theatrical. He knelt. Not because he was expected to. But because he chose to.
"I built influence," he said calmly. "I built leverage. I built protection." His eyes held hers, unwavering. "But loving you required something different."
She felt her vision blur slightly.
"What?" she whispered. "Vulnerability."
He opened the ring box. Elegant. Understated. Brilliant.
"I don't need to own you," he continued softly. "I don't need to control you."
A pause.
"I want to stand beside you."
Her heart pounded.
"You are the only person who sees me without fear," he said. "And the only one who makes me want to be better than I was yesterday." His voice lowered. Intimate, steady. Danielle, will you build a future with me, not because I can protect you,
Another breath.
but because I will cherish you? Tears slipped down her cheeks before she realized she was crying. Yes, she breathed.
Not because he was powerful. Not because he was feared. But because he chose restraint when he could have chosen dominance. Because he chose evolution when he could have chosen violence. Because he asked. He slid the ring onto her finger with steady hands. Then stood. And instead of claiming her with intensity, he rested his forehead against hers. Quiet. Certain. Devoted.
Months later, headlines praised his corporation's expansion into legitimate global infrastructure.
Investors admired his discipline. Competitors respected his precision. But none of them knew the real reason the empire stabilized. It wasn't strategy alone. It was love. The most feared man in the room had not been softened. He had been refined. And Danielle? She didn't shrink in his world.
She stood in it, equal, respected, cherished. Her grandmother, watching from the front row at their private ceremony, smiled knowingly.
Sometimes love doesn't arrive gently. Sometimes it arrives guarded. Disciplined. Dangerous. And then,
It kneels.